it's been over a dozen years that they've been threatening this,
Mm-hmm.
and that it was almost going to happen. I mean, even back to Hafez al-Assad, who was his father, there were talks of that. But after the Arab Spring, many thought that it was going to be Syria that fell next. And one of the interesting parts of Syria is that people don't care about it as much because there's no oil in Syria, and so people kind of moved away in their thought about it. But no, I guess it was poised to happen for a very long time, and it never quite happened.
I was watching a report last night about the importance of Syria geographically and how much of a kind of a staging ground it is to
Yeah.
go through for other countries to go through to attack other places. I guess it's right on the way to Lebanon and Israel
Right,
from
right.
Iran, and so
Yeah.
its geological importance makes it even though it doesn't have oil, significant in the region because of military actions.
For sure, and that's what they always wanted to underscore. But I mean, the other side of it is that if you look at what the Assad family did, I mean, they came to power. I think it was in 1970. Does that sound right? Through a military coup, Hafez, his father, they bombed their own people. They used chemical weapons on their own people. So it doesn't make you think that being a rebel in that country is a good way to go, because you're going to be exterminated, right? And so that's what, you asked if it surprised me you didn't have it on your bingo card. Yeah, to an extent, it is surprising because of that, right? I mean, they just kept advancing and advancing. They started in Aleppo and they kept moving through, and I think it's to me surprising that even in the face of what they were in the face of, that they continued to do that.
Let's watch the video, Tony. Do we have it ready to roll?
We've got a team standing by to cover all of this. We are going to start with NBC News international correspondent Raf Sanchez. Raf, good morning. All this happened so fast. Just walk us through the events of the last 24 hours and the reaction we're already getting out of Syria this morning.
Joe, Savannah, good morning. So fast. The history of the Middle East rewritten at lightning speed. Bashar al-Assad and his family ruled Syria with an iron fist for more than 50 years, but their regime crumbled in less than 2 weeks in the face of this advance by Syrian rebel fighters. They burst out of northwest Syria, taking city after city. And in the early hours of Sunday morning, they entered the capital, Damascus, seizing control there. Bashar al-Assad, Syria's toppled president, fleeing to Russia along with his family. His regime really didn't put up a fight at any stage during this rebel advance. And what we've come to see is that this was a truly brittle regime that, without the help of its main backers, Russia, who over the last 2 years has been distracted in Ukraine, Iran and Hezbollah, who've been weakened fighting against Israel over the last year, Assad's forces really were in no position to fight themselves. They threw down their weapons, and today the rebels are consolidating power in Damascus. As you mentioned, the rebels are led by an Islamist group. It has its origins in al-Qaeda. It is considered still to be a terrorist organization by the United States, but it is going to great lengths to try to signal to the Syrian people and to the world that it's moderated. Its leader, Mohammed al-Jolani, was in one of the historic mosques in the old city of Damascus yesterday. He's promising a government for all Syrians, that there will not be reprisals against political enemies, against minority groups, and people around the region, around the world, are watching to see as this new rebel government takes shape. Guys.
Yeah, Ralph, let's talk about what could come next. I mean, there's concern, there's uncertainty, especially since the main rebel group here, they are considered a terrorist organization by the U.S. Tell us more about the president's reaction to these events and what we will see next.
So President Biden speaking at the White House yesterday saying that this is both a moment of opportunity and a moment of risk. And at the center of that balance are these rebels, the main group called Hayat Tahrir al-Sham. And the U.S. says that they will judge them by their actions. Take a listen.
We will remain vigilant. Make no mistake, some of the rebel groups that took down Assad have their own grim record of terrorism and human rights abuses. We've taken note of statements by the leaders of these rebel groups in recent days, and they're saying the right things now. But as they take on greater responsibility, we will assess not just their words, but their actions.
Now,
Thank you,
senior
Tony.
administration
I appreciate it.
officials were.
What's interesting about that, Michael Schur, is that President Biden says this is an opportunity. Trump says we shouldn't do anything in Syria. We shouldn't get involved in this at all. Netanyahu is also looking at this as an opportunity. So there are all these people from different countries going, oh, what can be done here?
Well, yeah, and this happened because of what else is happening in the world, right? I mean, there are other conflicts going on, like Russia and Ukraine, like Israel and Hezbollah, right? And Hezbollah and Russia, what are they? They're Syria's biggest allies, and they were busy when the call came for help, right? They had their own fish to fry. And so what you're looking at is almost a coup of opportunity here, right? I mean, it reminds me. I always think of this. There was a I think it was in Indiana or Illinois. Dan Quayle was campaigning for vice president, and so was Lloyd Bentsen. This was in 1992. This is a great political story, but it was a small town, and they happened to both been in the same place on the same day. I may be wrong. It might have been Quayle and Dukakis, but whatever it was definitely Dan Quayle and I think Lloyd Bentsen, the Democrat and the Republican, running for vice president at the time. And 3 banks were robbed in that town on that day because they knew that all the police were taking care of the vice presidential nominees, right? And in this small town. And so that's sort of what happened here, right? I mean, you had Hezbollah, who always came to Syria's aid, and they're fighting their own fight right now. You had Russia that always came to Syria's aid, and they don't have the aid to give right now, militarily anyway, because they're so concentrated on Ukraine. And so these rebels took the opportunity, and it happened virtually in the whole scheme of history overnight, right? It was across 10 or 12 or 13 days. But by the same token, it was an incredibly quick thing. And so I think what makes this a better, if such a thing, a better coup and a better toppling is that it happened from within Syria. It wasn't the United States sort of pulling strings and saying, go in. It wasn't the Russians saying, don't come in, we're going to fight you. Yes, of course, there are implicit help and there's implicit urgency, but I think that's what makes this it's kind of a homegrown coup, which is, I guess, how coups ought to be. And so I think that there will be it's
going to be a coup. It's got to be a homegrown coup.
If you're going to have a coup, have one at home. So anyway, so I think that's fascinating to me, and I think it's important too.
Well, we are getting involved. These cars, you see this video of all these cars? These are Bashar Assad's cars, like the Ferraris. They're like rows, and you see this extreme greed and wealth, and in a country where people are poverty stricken, right? And he's got all these rows and rows of Ferraris. I don't know what that is. Are those drugs? I don't know what we're looking at. Crazy.
Yeah, I don't know, and we won't know. And somebody called me an idiot host, so I guess I'm officially no, because I said it didn't happen within Syria. Of course, it happened within Syria, and it said they're all outside fighters, right? They're not all outside fighters. They probably had some help from the outside on the ground. There's no question, but this was pretty homegrown. And yes, I'm not wrong. It happened as Turkey is pulling the string. Well, I would imagine Jelani is going to be a lot like Erdogan should he remain the leader there, and that's my opinion. But it's not. This has been happening and brewing in Syria for a very long time, and it's been flirted with over a long time. And so you can call me an idiot host if you want, but
you're one of the smartest people I've met, so I don't think you're an idiot host.
No, it's fine. I understand that this is how things are when you have live people talking to you. Like, there's something to endorse about that and something to about it too. But I'm thick-skinned enough to be able to take it. I was just bringing it up because it was kind of fun. But go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I don't know if we're trading. We're like looking for the least worst terrorist here, because over the weekend as well, the United States did get involved in bombing ISIS targets in this area.
Yeah.
And so the U.S. struck, 75 ISIS targets on Sunday, according to U.S. Central Command. They said this, the CENTCOM commander, General Eric Kurilla, he said there should be no doubt we will not allow ISIS to reconstitute and take advantage of the current situation in Syria. All organizations in Syria should know that we will hold them accountable if they partner with ISIS in any way. But we heard from that NBC report that this group is considered, the one that just took power, is considered a terrorist group as well. So we're just kind of juggling terrorists. Like, who's the least worst? Who's the,
Right.
I don't know.
And times redefine who the terrorists are, as well. As weird as that may sound, is that if you took a position in 1987, things have evolved and have evolved so quickly in that region that position may be different in 2024 as well. So Syria is a complicated place. The region's a complicated place. The poverty that was left behind by the Assad regime, not only that, the devastation and the slow rebuilding whenever it has happened, and in many cases it hasn't. I mean, they decimated their own cities. That has caused a huge toll on the people of Syria, and they have looked everywhere out of desperation for assistance. And there's no question Turkey has taken the biggest interest there now. And I would say that Turkey probably sees the Syrians in the same way as they see themselves, and they see an opportunity there for sure.
Benjamin Netanyahu has ordered the military to seize the Syria buffer zone, jumping on this opportunity to, I don't know, collect more land or get more control over this area. This is like, it's almost like a free-for-all.
Well, it is. I mean, look, everything's a free-for-all to Netanyahu, right? I mean, like, he sees everything and it's, oh, look, there's land. I could have that, right? They've typically looked at everyone in their region as their enemy, and probably with good reason, but they're not going to get anywhere into making them less enemy-like, even these rebels who took over and have eliminated Assad. By trying to go in there and seize this as an opportunity. I mean, the opportunity for Israel is that maybe you'll get some moderation in your region that will be a little better than what the Assad regime was like for Israel. But I don't think Benjamin Netanyahu should, is going to dictate the way things go in the development of Syria, because insofar as the big global economies are concerned, they're going to do, Israel is going to have a friend in the United States, but this is going to, I think, be left largely to Syria to figure out for a while with aid.
So he says, Netanyahu, that they won't allow any hostile force to establish itself on their border, which is why they're seizing control of this buffer zone. It's interesting what's happening. It's like the Middle East, before our very eyes, the Middle East is just shifting all over the place.
Yeah, it's happening, and that will, perhaps change when when Netanyahu's out of there. I mean, this is a layman's way of looking at it, but if you eliminate a buffer zone and you take over that buffer zone, well, whatever is beyond the buffer zone is now the border, right? And so your enemies on your border. So unless you take over the entire region, which Israel is not going to do or be able to do. He is. I think that people have to wait and see what happens in Syria to a degree too, and see how the rebuilding goes and what their government is like, and if the promises of Jolani, and I may not be pronouncing that right, are in fact what's going to be going to prevail there. We don't quite know that yet.
Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.